I'm Lee and this is my podcast about my handmade life. I'm on Instagram as Luli_ and on Ravelry as Luli. I have an Etsy shop where I sell knitting needle cases and notions cases called Shop Luli, but you can find links to all of my online places at luli.com. Welcome! It's so nice to have you along and be spending a little bit of time talking about making with you. Today I've got a little bit of sewing and a little bit of knitting, and we're being joined by my fluffy co-host, who I'm probably going to put down in a minute. The first thing I have to talk to you about today is community news. And over in the Ravelry group we have Knit 1000 Grams 2018 going. And that's been really fun. I've been looking through the finished objects thread at everybody's jerseys, and there's some really great ones there. It's so nice to see all the different things that people are making, and I've particularly been interested in the garments this week. It's been really inspiring. This week I have put up a blog post about a yarn review. A wee while ago I bought the Whistlebear Cheviot Blue 4-ply, and I had done swatches for a cardigan which I've since decided not to make with this yarn, but I thought it was worth doing my usual road test. My hairy co-host is trying to sit down on my knee and he's just sliding off so it's not quite working out for him. So I have the Cheviot Blue and I have done my usual road test and put up a yarn review about that over on the blog. If you're interested, you can pop over there and have a look. There is no sock segment today. I realised as I was sitting down to record that I've done a little bit on all of the socks that I showed you last week, so there's actually not that much progress to see. It would look a lot like last week's podcast, so I shall show you the socks that I have going next week. Also, I think I want to finish a couple of pairs of socks before I get on with the Ravenclaw socks that I was talking about last week. I have the yarn, that's all ready to go. I just want to clear off a couple of sets of needles. I have been knitting on the Jones cardigan, which I'm really enjoying. This is a pattern by Tin Can Knits, and it is a really lovely cabled cardigan. That I'm knitting in Hazelnut's Lively DK in this really beautiful autumnal colour. So I'm really enjoying that. If you haven't ever knitted cables before, I would highly recommend this pattern. It's lots of fun. I think if you knitted it in the smallest size, you could probably do it in about 150 grams of yarn. And if you pick a nice colour and some fun parent friendly yarn, then it's really good fun, and the cables are quite simple. I've said before that I am cabling without a cable needle because I just find that easiest, and I'm onto the sleeve now. So just have that to get going. This project though has really got me thinking about the sort of yarns that I use for babies and children's knits, and I like to knit things as gifts for people in yarns that are easy for them to manage. So I don't want to give somebody who doesn't do a lot of hand washing something that they have to hand wash. I don't want to give a parent who just wants to shove everything in the washing machine a wool garment that's going to shrink, but I do want to give them wool because it's my subtle strategy to change the nation back into, or to at least change my friends and family back into wool wearers. So the thing about yarns like this one, and I think the other yarn that I've knitted a lot of children's garments in and garments for gifting, is wool mice, because they are very, very easy to care for and they come in really lovely colours. The problem I find though is that they're usually made out of superfine merino, and so when you get into the DK and thicker weights, they don't have a lot of the benefits that non-superwash wool has. So I think the thing that I really like about Shetland or some Blueface Leicesters and a lot of those other breeds of wool, and even I guess a good example is Opal 4-ply sock yarn, because it's not made of superfine fleeces and breeds of sheep, I really enjoy it. It's not as densely spun as a lot of the merino is, and it has a very woolly, open, light, airy feel to it that this yarn just doesn't have. When I knit with these yarns, I end up with a garment that is very dense and heavy. So what I'm looking for is a light woolly yarn that comes in fun colours and is at least 70% wool. Something that people can, something I can still make nice garments out of, but that will give the recipient a better taste of what it's like to wear wool. It's my subtle way of converting them into wool wearers. So if you have any suggestions, I would love to hear from you. I did think about looking at some websites here in the UK, but maybe there's something that you've tried. Maybe you know a dyer that uses a yarn that's a little bit woollier and dyes in fun colours. I did wonder about having a look at the Knit Picks website as well. So if you have an experience with a yarn like that, I would be really interested to know. I'm not sure if this is the sewing segment. I think I'll talk about sewing first. So this is the sewing segment. I have finally gotten around to working on the Alexandria Peg trouser toile. I think I've showed you the toile that I actually made up, and I'm going to scoot over this way and insert some pictures here, hopefully, of me actually wearing these trousers. I made them up in an old cotton twill duvet cover, and I have been wearing them around the house. I think I had got the fit right, except for at the back. You can probably see the pictures that I've taken aren't particularly good because the weather wasn't great that day, and so I took them inside. But I think you'll be able to see that there was a lot of wrinkling down the back of the legs. And the way that I was taught to get rid of that is to actually take some space out of the bottom. I have quite a flat bottom. The width around my hips tends to be on the side, not at the back, and so I find when I cut out a pair of trousers to the size that corresponds with my hip measurement, that they're quite full in the bottom. So in order to alleviate that, I made these kind of darts across the back of the bottom there, and when you alter the pattern you actually take out wedges of paper, and it makes the side of the hip curve in a little bit more as well. So it removes fabric from the centre of the back of the trouser and curves the hips into your waist a little bit. And I think that worked. If you have a look at this picture definitely is blurry. Well, I might have gotten out in the garden and taken another one, but if I haven't, I'm sorry about the blurry picture. But you can see that it's removed a lot of the wrinkling from the back of these trousers. So I wore these round the house for the day and they were really, really comfortable. But when I look at them in the photographs, and even as I'm wearing them, I felt like I was wearing sweatpants all day, and that's just not the look I'm going for. I was kind of like anti making them flattering. But I think it is important to me to look neat and tidy. So this pattern, as much as I like seeing other people who wear this sort of style and make it look ultra cool, I just don't think it works for me. Which is one of the reasons that I find it useful to make a toile is, you know, sometimes you'll grab something in a shop and you'll take it into the fitting room and you'll go, whoa, that's not how I want to look. And so you'll just put it back. So it has been useful to make up the toile, and it was also useful, I think, to try out the alteration that I needed to make, just to see that actually work, so that I know that that's something I can do on other trousers that I'm making. I spent a lot of time on the internet looking at different trouser patterns that were available, and I seem to, for the fit that I wanted, I seem to be getting into jeans territory, and I don't feel that my sewing skills are quite there, and it's a level of complexity in my sewing that I don't quite want to get into yet. So the pattern that I've chosen is one that does have a lot of pieces and it has a fly, but I liked the fit over the bottom and over the hips, and I think the wide waistband will suit me really well as well. This is the Thurlow pattern by Sewaholic. I also went through the Instagram hashtag for this pattern, and I really liked the look of the trousers on a lot of different people. I think it worked really well. I was going to say I'm not going to cast it on. I'm not going to go on to this immediately because I have another sewing project that I would really, really like to finish before I get back into my trouser making experiment. So yeah, that's on the back burner for now. I think this is going to be the next garment that I cut out though, so I'll need to trace off the pattern pieces, find some more waste fabric and get going with that one. Finally this week I have been experimenting in the factory with some new patterns and ideas, and I was fishing around in my scrap fabric and the fabrics that I have here when I came across the fabric that I wove, I think it was in January. This one. You might remember it from a podcast earlier in the year. I had used my Opal Advent mini skein calendar, and I had alternated the mini skeins with some grey yarns that I had in order to make this kind of houndstooth fabric. And it was a learning experience. There's a few mistakes and things that I kind of corrected as I went along, but that was the whole point of it. The whole point of it was that it wasn't particularly special yarn that I was worried about mucking up. So I decided that I wanted to make something with this fabric to test it out as a fabric, to see what it was like to sew, and because I used superwash yarns in it, I wanted to see how it would wear as I washed it as well. So I thought I would make up a cushion cover, which I have here. Actually, hang on, I'll go and put a cushion pad into it. So, here it is. I decided to make a cushion cover because they get quite heavily used in our house. I probably change my cushion covers 2, 3 in the winter when we're coming in with muddy feet, maybe 4 times a month. I wash them regularly, so I thought this would be a good experiment to see how well the fabric will wash and wear. I decided to use only stuff that I already had in the house, so I've just made a really simple envelope style cushion cover. I put this flange around the edge, this little strip here that I've sewn down, is actually to enclose all of the edges of the woven fabric because it was fraying quite a lot. So that just seemed like an easy way to finish off the cushion. I like the look of it, and to neaten up those edges. For the back, I used the offcuts from the fabric that I use for making cases. There we go, so it's just an envelope style. I haven't sewn buttons on yet, but anyway, I used the fabric that I use for making cases, so it's this blue side. It's not a true denim, it's described as a cotton twill, and I'm not even sure that it's indigo dyed, and it's lightweight, quite lightweight, so it has kind of like a drape to it if I was to make garments out of it. And it's very easy because it's a twill and it's got that twill weave. It's very easy to handle as well. It doesn't bias or anything when you're working with it. But I thought the back side actually fits in with I was about to say scheme, which makes what's happening in my living room sound a lot grander than it is. It fits in with the scheme that I aspire to better than the blue does. So I decided to use these offcuts, and I quite like this sort of goldy beige colour as well. So I have just pieced those together to make the back. I haven't put buttons on. Not yet, I'm going to. I have a number of envelope style cushion covers that I've made out of fabrics that I really like. Except a couple of years ago, it might be a few years ago, we acquired an animal who chewed off all my nice wooden buttons. So I've been using the cushion covers without buttons on. However, he's older now, and really I probably should have just told him off. I'm hoping that now all his teeth are through and he's a bit older, that I can take some time and sew buttons onto all of my cushion covers and have them stay there. So I just have to rifle through my button collection and see what I have and sew those back on, but that will be part of that job. It's going to be really interesting to see how this wears. I like cushion covers in pairs, and I like the way that this has turned out. So I have enough fabric, I think, to piece together in a scrappy style. I've got this piece of fabric. It's not quite 50 centimetres wide, and I put a 50 centimetre pad inside my cushions. And then I've got some pieces like this. So I'm just going to piece them together randomly and make another cushion cover to try out and see how I get along. I'll be really interested to see how it looks after it's been through the washing machine. So that is the last thing that I have to talk to you about today. I think my focus for the coming week is still going to be socks. I'm probably just going to focus on one pair though, so I get them finished. I also want to finish off Jones. That's lots of fun, and I just have the sleeves and the neckband to do. So that shouldn't actually take too long if I don't get distracted by cushion covers again. And I want to I want to finish off a quilt that I started working on quite some time ago. I'm going to be seeing the person that I want to gift it to in early November, so it would be nice to be able to crack on with that one, because by the time you get to the quilting phase that can be an epic sewing mission. So it's going to take a bit of time and I need to sit down and get working on that. It has been so nice to come and have a little chat with you. Please come over and join us in the Ravelry group. I always like the conversation that kind of happens around the podcast about our different aspirations and making and the journey that we're all on. So that's really exciting. Please come over and say hello, and I shall see you next time. Cheerio!